You know him as one of England's most successful captains. If you follow him on social media, you would have seen him wandering the streets of Mumbai, getting haircuts, shaves and head massages. I, of course, know him and have encountered and battled with him on the paddle courts of Mumbai this summer, and unfortunately for me, the scores have gone England's way. I'm, of course, talking about Michael Vaughn. Michael, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for making me look good on the paddle court.
Well, I have no comeback for that, but I promise you I will get revenge when we play next time.
I'm sure you will.
So, Michael, you're here covering the IPL, so I'm going to start with that. We know how great the event is. Who are the young players that have really impressed you, that have really stood out this tournament?
Oh, I think, Shubman Gill is an exceptional player. You've seen him play so well for India, particularly in white ball cricket. I think he's the one that actually, I think Indian cricket is a history of superstars and names and almost godlike characters. Kapil Dev from '83, Sachin Tendulkar, and Sachin, I would say, is the biggest of them all. Yeah. Virat Kohli then takes on the mantle. There's a bit of Rohit Sharma. I think Shubman's the nearest that I've seen that could be the next Virat, the next Sachin. I don't think anyone's going to get to Sachin. I have to say that. I don't think you can get close to Sachin. But Shubman Gill's game, particularly in white ball cricket, is as good as I've seen for a young player. I think he's still got a lot to learn in Test cricket. I think there's an element to his game, particularly when the ball moves around in foreign conditions, particularly in the likes of England and Australia, when there's just a little bit of movement early. He's got quite hard hands. He goes at the ball, which makes him a great white ball player. But when you're throwing your hands at the ball when the ball moves, there's a chance you're going to snick it. So I think there's an element of his game he can improve in Test cricket, but in white ball cricket, I think he's going to absolutely dominate for a number of years. He's dominated this year's IPL. The 100 he's just scored against Mumbai in Ahmedabad in the semi-final. I know it's always easy when you see something happen, you always think it's the best that you've seen because it's just happened. But I was thinking back and thinking, in terms of T20 cricket, when has there been a better 100 in terms of pure ball striking? I don't think I've seen one.
Wow.
I honestly don't think I've seen one. And that's not disrespecting any of the great hundreds of the past, but for pure ball striking, and this wasn't an innings where you saw ramps and flicks and tricks and Surya Kumar kind of flicks over the keeper. This was pure ball striking in the V. The V, through extra cover, over long on, pull shots, little flicks. So I'd say Shubman Gill, he's already a star, but he's going to absolutely dominate for years. But Yashasvi Jaiswal, I think, is a gift. Great story. I love his humble and kind of upbringing, living on the streets of Mumbai, practicing at the Oval Maidan, which I just love. I think it's a hotbed for cricket globally, never mind just in India. I just think anyone that loves the game of cricket will love the Oval Maidan, and he's just got an amazing game. That glorious bat swing, the confidence and the swagger. I think Shubman and Yashasvi
are the two standouts.
I think those two might dominate a lot of world cricket in the next 10 years. I think that partnership, particularly in white ball cricket, I think will be, and Indian cricket fans will be sitting back, having a drink or two, watching those two play for many, many years, and I'm sure they're going to win India many, many games. Whether they can win India a World Cup, that's the big ticket. That's what you want. You want big trophies, and they've certainly got the game to do so. They're amazing two young players.
Okay, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot now. I'm going to make you the president of the ICC. I'm going to make you the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch of the game of cricket.
Right.
You have under your control the future series, the World Cups, everything to do with the game. What changes would you make? What would you do for the future? And your all-important question that people are asking today is, would you kill or would you keep one-day cricket?
I think 50-over cricket is under a huge amount of threat. I think we might see a number of players potentially leave 50-over cricket after this year's World Cup in India. I think bilateral series are going to be a problem going forward. That's across T20 and 50-over cricket. I think there's too much money made from 50-over cricket in terms of the ICC, TV rights. World Cups are huge. So what I would do is, I wouldn't play much 50-over cricket in between the 4 years of World Cups. I'd just play 6 months leading into the World Cup, just to get players back accustomed to playing 50-over cricket. T20 cricket is now a franchise model. You know, in the World Cups, you pick your international teams from what you see in franchise cricket. Again, I don't think the bilateral T20 series model will be around in the next few years. I just don't think it works. I don't feel that there's any kind of meaning to a lot of the bilateral series. All right, there's a few points, but you know, I just have the playing countries, and there's not many players and countries that play cricket, so you know pretty much who the World Cup teams are going to be. And every 4 years you have a T20, and in between every 4 years you have a 50 over World Cup. I do feel in time that 50 over cricket might go, but not in our time. I think we still make so much money, and it's not all about the money, but you know, money helps in the game. It helps all these great stadiums. It helps develop the game. It helps grassroots. So you do need the money, and I know 50 over cricket makes a huge amount of money when the World Cups are around. Test cricket is the key. You know, Test match cricket is this format that is still the greatest format. It is still the format that tests you more than any other player, any other format in the game. It's the skill sets, it's the mindset, it's the attrition, you know, longevity. To see Jimmy Anderson still playing 20 years after making his debut is ridiculous for a bowler. So it's still the hardest format, but it doesn't mean it's a format that you can't tinker with. You know, just because, you know, 5-day Test cricket has been played forever, and it's like this. I call it's like a Grade 2 listed building Test cricket. You know, no one dare touch it. Yeah. You know, you can't tinker with it. But the problem that Test cricket has is that the Grade 2 listed building's here, and next door they've built this real cool, trendy apartment block. You know, some will still want to live in the Grade 2, but there's a lot that now want to live in this cool building because everything's done for you. Yeah. You know, it's a model where you pretty much arrive into your apartment block. There's a concierge, there's a gym, there's probably hairdressers, there's restaurants, everything's on your doorstep. You're getting a lift, you're up in your room, and it's all chilled, all brand new, modern. The modern person likes that. Yep. You know, those old stages, we like the Grade 2. It's great. There's a bit of history. We like the high ceilings. You know, but why can't you tinker with it?
So what would you do? What would you think?
I think Test cricket, and again, in England, if you Brexit, you get absolutely murdered for if you talk about that. There's so many things that you've got to be careful about talking about these days. But Test cricket for me is something that we really seriously have to consider changing it to 4 days. And it's not that I say that because I desperately want it to go to 4 days. I say that to try and protect it. And I'm not just saying this because England have played this expansive way, but what England have done is showcase what can be done in Test cricket. And by Ben and Braz McCullum coming in and playing this expansive game, which is all about winning, and it's all about entertainment, and it's all about scoring quickly, and it's all about giving the people that pay the ticket price entertainment on that day. So if you arrive to watch England and they're playing in the Ashes or against Ireland or against, you know that if they're batting, they're going to come out. They're going to come out and attack. So it's just a great spectacle. And basically they're saying that they don't need 5 days. They're going to try and win inside 3-4 days of cricket. If there's 2 days of rain, guess what they're going to do? They'll declare and try and create a game to make it entertaining. I just think there's too many aspects of Test cricket because it's 5 days, and because we've been so used to it being 5 days, it just drags out. It's like the follow-on never happens because we've got another day to play. It just never happens. There's quite a lot of Test 5 days. If you study it closely, and again, the die-hard cricket fans, the Grade 2ers, the Grade 2 buildingers, they love it because there's a story, and it's tranquil, it takes time, and it's, you know, a partnership might develop over 2 or 3 hours. It's great, but we've got to be careful that the modern person who are in this new building don't want that. Yeah. You know, so you've always got to have an eye of what the future is going to be in terms of your audience. And I'm just thinking that if Test cricket was 4 days, it could be easy to schedule 12 Test matches per annum. You know, I personally would love to see the ICC and all the world teams get together and go, okay, to save cricket and Test cricket, what we need is 4 months per annum. That is purely for Test match cricket. You know, everyone plays it around those 4 months, that's it. And that's 12 games. So if you go on a tour to Pakistan, you're playing 3 games, it's a month. You arrive, you have a week's preparation. Generally, they don't like playing warm-up games these days. They go and play golf. Right. So they go and play golf, and then they play 3 back-to-back games, starting on a Thursday, finishing on a Sunday. So we all know in the calendar, we know the schedule. We know that Test match cricket starts on a Thursday, and on a Sunday, like golf, is the outcome. And then you have 3 days off and you go again. Obviously for Ashes and big series like England-India and India versus Australia, you want more than 3 games. You want to have the 5-match series. So you can incorporate those bigger series somehow. I worry that if we don't schedule it in that way, and you know what, 4 months might be too many in the calendar of IPLs, CPLs, hundreds, Big Bash, Pakistan Super Leagues, UAE leagues, American Super Leagues.
Yeah.
It might not be. It might be too much for us. It might have to be 3 months. We have to adapt. To save Test cricket, we have to adapt. And if we don't, I really fear that players coming through will purely look at the franchise model, will purely look at T20 cricket. That's where the money is. Let's be honest, that's where you're going to earn all the bucks. Global contracts to these franchises like Rajasthan, Mumbai, Chennai, they're coming, and completely understand why. They're owning all these teams around the world. Again, I understand why. That brand's now travelling. So we have to not fight the system. The old stagers will say, we can't allow the franchises to take over, that's ridiculous. I see cricket going like football. If you actually look at the Premier League football model, your main contract as a footballer is with your club. And in time, your main cricket contract will be with your franchise. But you still want to play for your country. And you will still represent your country because for your brand, and obviously because if you want to represent your country, you're still going to play. So all the England footballers that play Premier League, they earn a huge amount of money, but the ones that earn the top dollar are all playing for England.
Right.
Because all the brands want to be associated with international stars, not just Premier League stars. You have to be an international star. And I see that's how cricket will go, that yes, you'll have a big Mumbai Indian contract, which will be great. But to be a real global superstar, you have to play for your country. And I think that's the ticket. And that is the factor in terms of the international boards having negotiation over the player is, okay, don't play for your country, see what happens. I will guarantee if you don't play for your country, your brand will start to dwindle. To have the highest brand and to have the highest profile, you have to represent your country. So I think we're in that marketplace now, we're in that kind of, and I hope conversation place that by me saying this, that 4-day cricket could be the saviour of Test match cricket. Don't shoot me down, I'm just trying to help. I've got a vision. I want Test cricket to survive. I don't want to in 6-7 years time look at an England team and think, well, there's 7 that should be in the side, but they decided not to be in the side because they're in a franchise model. And if we look at the modern player coming through, what do they like to do? They play expansive. So when England started playing this baseball, I thought, that's quite sensible because that's what they want to do. That's what they do on a day-to-day basis. That's what their games and their techniques and their minds have been trained over the course of the last 6 or 7 years is purely to hit the ball. The modern player is a mindset of attack, expansion, what's possible. Whacking the ball out of the ground, playing reverse sweeps in Test cricket, no problem.
Yeah.
Joe Root plays a reverse sweep to a seamer. For 6. That's the modern game, and it's great. I think in the last year in England, with the way England have played, and England won the World Cup in 2019. It was a great Ashes series in 2019. We've won the Ashes in England in 19, 13, I think 15. Been hammered pretty much in Australia for many years, since 2010-11. But I think last year, with England playing the expansive way in Test cricket, was probably the biggest year when I saw more people talk about the game. More kids looking on social media so it's great these days. Someone plays a great shot, a tricky shot, it goes on social media, everyone goes, wow, look at that, I'll try and copy that. That is the modern game. That's what these players do. So actually, it seems to me very sensible for the modern player to be told in Test cricket, forget that it's 90 overs in a day, try and impact every over. Try and impact the over.
Right.
In T20 cricket, you try and impact the over, you try and dominate.
Right.
And of course, the sensible teams will say the ball's swinging, you've just got to see off that spell. I think the way England see a ball that's moving is try and make sure it doesn't move. So you get to it before it moves. Dance down and whack it. Again, the old school player will go, ridiculous, how can that be possible? Well, so far it's been possible. And it's been a very entertaining year and a half of watching them because it's worked. Now, mindset, technique, ability, freedom, fearless, culture in the dressing room, you need all that to play this way.
Right.
If you're in an environment which is a little bit, try and play it, good luck. but you're not getting the full backing from your management, well, it's not going to work. I'd just love to see every team in the world all get together and realise, and cricket's great because you want teams to play slightly differently. But I think for us to save Test cricket, it almost needs to be a global union that realises that for Test cricket to really survive, you've got to entertain. You have to entertain, and if that means on days 3 and 4 you have to get together and create a game on days 4 and 5 for the public to understand and get entertained by, that's exactly what will need to happen for the Test game to be prominent for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
But are you seeing the first stages of that with how England's been playing for the past few years? And even you talked about the franchise model, what recently happened with Jason Roy. I know you tweeted about it a little bit. That's a positive in the right direction of people?
Absolutely. I don't see any negativity. You know, Jason Roy's been offered a contract in America.
Yeah.
It's, I have no question, a better contract than he's got in the UK. He's on an incremental contract in the UK, which is not a full central contract. England don't play till September in white ball cricket.
Yeah.
He wants to go to the States in June, July and earn a load of money, and he's got a 2-year contract. I mean, again, you can't fight it. I mean, these players have got short careers. You've got 10 years, 12 years to earn your crust, and then once you finish, you try and work your way, and whether you go into the media, you go into coaching, you go into business, you know, there's a lot of sports people that struggle when they retire. So let's not criticise them when they suddenly start taking the dollar or the pound, because that's their job.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the business.
Yeah.
You know, I always look at every, you know, sport is, in particularly cricket, it's a team environment, but ultimately it's about you. You know, you've got to look after your share price.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, you've got to look after your business, and if someone's offering you a huge amount of money for you and your family to go and play cricket, and it's a 2.5-week window in America, you know, I don't think we can fight that. We've got to accept that the game's changing. But I'll always say this, and that's why I said it earlier, the biggest ticket that all these boards have around the world is international sport will always be the key. To get your brand and to get your share price really flying as an individual player, you've got to play international sport.
Got to play for your country.
You have to. Yeah. So by what Jason Roy is doing, I don't think it's affecting his international position. I hope not. I hope England don't think, oh, we're not going to pick him in September because he took this contract. It's just the way of the world. Let's work with it. I think, again, if these international boards are clever and these franchises want to pay these players all this huge amount of money, that'll be going great. We don't have to pay them as much. Yeah. We're still going to get all the TV deals. We're going to get a load of money into the game. We'll be able to spend it accordingly elsewhere.
Yeah.
You know, but ultimately, understand that the player will realise that playing international cricket is the key. They have to play international cricket.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to ask you was, again, about the game. We're at a stage where, and we're reaching that stage, almost at the stage where 150 strike rate is nothing to blink an eye about. So, and there's been a lot of chatter of, is the game becoming too batsman friendly? You're a batsman. What is your view on this?
I don't see that. I see, you know, if you're good, you're good.
Yeah.
You know, you look at someone like Rashid Khan, you know, so brilliant, the best T20 bowler of all time. You know, let's be honest, you look at what Rashid's done in all the leagues, every team he plays for pretty much goes all the way in the tournament that he's playing in. What's he got? Great skill, great mystery. You're not telling me that all these players haven't seen Rashid Khan now. Right. They've seen him for years and years and years, but he still manages to bamboozle them because he's brilliant. You know, so the best bowlers in the world, Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami. Look at Mohammad Shami's kind of refiguring in T20 cricket. I mean, he just bowls test match length. He's realised that he bowls 90 miles an hour, he can move the ball either way, and what he does with that new white ball is he runs in and bowls test match length, top of off stump, and says to a lot of these modern day players, what have you got? And a lot of them struggle when that happens. You know, they're so used to the seamers trying so many things, and I think, you know, Mohammad Shami probably a few years ago tried too many things in T20 cricket, slow balls, wide yorkers, slow ball bouncers. I think someone's probably knocked on his door and said, you bowl 90 miles an hour and you can swing it and nip it either way. You know, why don't you just try that? And there's a huge effect. So I think what it tells me is the best bowlers in the world are successful in T20 cricket because they bowl the best balls.
Right.
They bowl the best balls. I'm not saying they're predictable, but the best ball still is a hard ball to hit. So the Rashid Khans, the mysteries. I think it's key that if you're a spinner, you've got to be able to take the ball either way. If you're just going one way, you're going to get marmalised. So you have to have the ability. Look at Ravi Ashwin, just got that ability to go either way. That's what you require. So I don't think it's an area where the bowler just kind of rocks up and he knows he's going to go for 10s, 12s, 15s and over, because I'm seeing the real quality can shine through.
The good bowlers will find a way.
Yeah, that's why I like T20, because if you're mediocre, you get dispatched. And getting dispatched means that you're probably only a couple of games from losing your contract. So once you lose your contract, once you lose your position in your side because you're not bowled well enough and you're not good enough, that's you pretty much done. I mean, it's harsh, but it's a reality.
Yeah.
And it's the same in batting, Now this strike rate's gone to 150, 160. Sorry, come out, I think, around 190 throughout the whole of the IPL. Ridiculous. The best for me at the minute in the world is Sky. Look at Josh Butler when he's in fine form. Scored pretty much strikes at 200. Shubman Gill striking at 180, 200, just naturally, not looking like they're trying too much. So that's the benchmark now. When you're coming through, if you're a young player like Jaiswal, you look at the way that he's played. He's obviously looked at all the great players. And if you're coming through and you're not looking at who is the best player in the world now, and what do they do? So Suryakumar Yadav, what does he do? He can hit the ball 360 degrees. So he can go over the keeper's head. Yeah. He can play the sweep. He can play the reverse sweep. He can go over long on. He can go over mid-off. Goes over extra cover. 360 degree players. And that is the key. If you can be a 360 degree player, you can play against any balls on any pitch at any time. If you're only playing in certain elements of the ground and you only play one way, T20 cricket will find you out. You can actually play one way in Test cricket.
Right.
That's why it's a great game, Test cricket, because it allows people just to play in one way and see whether that'll be the case going forward. Because I think in Test match cricket, strike rates will come in.
You think that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think we're in a kind of movement, and England are almost paving the way that. I know that the talk in the England dressing room is strike rate. And that's but it's the modern game. Yep. The modern game is T20 strike rates, what you're hitting at, how you're impacting. Are you impacting every ball? 4 and 5 ball innings towards the back end are very important in T20 cricket. If you can score 15 or 5 at the back end, you're valuable. Yeah. You really are valuable. But if you score 5 off 7 at the front end of the game, you're going to get looked at in the dressing room and say, what are you doing? You've just created a huge amount of momentum for the opposition. So I think we're in a cycle of change for good. I see nothing but good from it, because I only see in bowling the best really having success. And now the benchmark in batting is if you're not striking it over at 150, you get completely exposed.
Right. And they were talking about Virat also earlier in the season.
Virat's a great, but even Virat, you kind of look at Virat in T20 cricket, you got a couple of great hundreds towards the back end there. You looked at the way Shubman Gill chased down Virat, so you went, wait a minute, we got a young whippersnapper who's hitting it better than Virat. Virat's a great player. Yeah. But you've always got to move with the times. You've always got to look at what the best teams are doing. I remember when England suddenly became a really good white ball team in 2016 after a disastrous 2015 and many other World Cups before that. And they just played expansively. The days of a 50 over game starting and after 10 overs the message to the dressing room, we think it's a 280 part, they're gone. Yep. Why 280? So you're telling me that Gujarat, in the game against Mumbai, after 6 overs, we think it's a 233 par. They'd have probably, in the old money, said, we get to 170. But the new money is all about what's possible. Don't put a number on it. Just try and watch the ball, try and impact that ball. Can you hit it for 6? No. Can you hit it for 4? No. All right, we'll just make sure we rotate the strike. Right. But if you take that mindset across 120 balls in T20 cricket, you're going to get a good number. Now, do that in 50 over cricket, you're going to get a good number. Right. Every now and again, it's not going to work. But just because it doesn't work every now and again, it doesn't mean you change your philosophy. Yeah. That's what has really impressed me from an England perspective, how they have bought into this white ball aggression with the bat. What's possible, don't think of a number, just keep going. Keep being aggressive. Yeah. And whatever the number will be at the end of the 50 overs will be the number that we've aggressively got to. But don't ever think safe. Yeah. Well, it's prediction time. Ooh. So we've got 2 big ones coming up. The first one is the World Test Championship. I think it's such a close one to call. I think India have got more players who have played cricket recently, and that is going to help, particularly bowlers. You know, Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, Josh Hazlewood, Scotty Boland, who have played, Nathan Lyon, they won't have bowled. So I know the modern player likes to play golf, and that's the way that they like to prepare. And I know the Aussies are going actually to Royal Birkdale and around that area of,
they are? Okay.
of the UK, the best golf courses, and they'll probably get the handicaps down. But whether that's going to get them into bowling mode to bowl out India, and all of India's players have played the IPL, they're all in decent nick. Pujara's playing county cricket, he scores runs for fun.
Yep.
I think India will get them. I think India, because they're game ready, and their bodies have been playing cricket and their minds have been playing cricket, to suddenly arrive at the Oval and suddenly go poof for the Aussies. I know Smith's played a bit of county cricket, Labuschagn's over there, but it's the bowling. Bowling, I hate to say this, but bowling wins your test matches. You have to get 20 wickets.
Yep.
So I was the Aussies, and I'm not sure they'd be concerned. I mean, their pinnacle for the tour of England will be to win the Ashes. The World Test Match Championship, I mean, this is how the world and the game has changed, is that, I guess in my time it would have been such a big game, but now it's just almost like a warm-up for the Ashes.
Right.
A championship final. I think India will get them. I mean, you've got to remember, in England you can have a sway at the toss, because there can be conditional changes that really favour a team winning the toss, particularly if it's a bit overcast and a little bit gloomy on the first one. It can be a huge advantage bowling first. If it's flat, you know, the just conditions stay flat throughout the test match. I just think because India are game ready, and the fact that they lost to New Zealand in the last one, I just fancy India this time.
Okay. Nathan Lyon has said that he believes Australia can win the Ashes 5-0.
He's got no chance.
Well, what is your prediction for the series?
He's got no chance. I mean, Nathan, I love him. I think he's an incredible bowler, I think he said that in tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
The Aussies haven't won there since 2001. You know, they retained the Ashes in 2019 against the England side that was all over the place.
Right.
And they only drew 2-2 in that series. And Jimmy Anderson got injured on day one of the 2019. He didn't bowl another ball. Jofra Archer only played 2 test matches.
Correct.
It took probably the greatest innings of all time by Ben Stokes to win him a test match, but England still managed to win 2 games. No, it won't be 5-0. There's no way it'll be 5-0. The Aussies are good. But I do, and whether this Australian team has really learned, you know, because Smith's never won a series in England. Labuschagne has not won a series in England. Stark's never won a series. Cummins, they haven't got anyone in that group that's won a series in the UK. And as much as they'll say they've had experience, they haven't had great experiences. So they'll have to change the way that they go about their business. You know, I think if they think that they're just going to rock up and this England side's Bazball approach, this expansive game is one that'll be too risky against that quality attack. You know, this way of England playing was good enough for the New Zealand attack. That is very, very good last year in the UK. It damaged India at Edgbaston in that one-off game.
Yep.
The South African attack's quality, England damaged that attack. All right, they lost 1 test match at Lord's when the conditions were in South Africa's favour, but again, that's the risk that you have in the UK, that you can get the wrong end of the conditions. They went to Pakistan. You know, Pakistan is not a great team at the minute, but to go to Pakistan and score at 7 and over in a test match against an okay Pakistan bowling attack, and then they do the same in New Zealand, and they didn't did they enforce the follow-on? They didn't enforce the follow-on in the test match in New Zealand. All of a sudden they lose that game by 1 or 2 runs. So every team they've played against so far, it's hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so the Aussies will know that England will play this way, and they're going to go harder and harder and harder. The first test is always the key. You know, the first test at Edgbaston will be the key. The last series in 19 that the Aussies drew, the Aussies went ahead. Smith was exceptional. He got 200s in the game, brilliant. You know, if England can win that first test, you know, and play the way that they have been playing, you know, the Aussies will find it difficult. But if the Aussies win that first test, I think, you know, England might find it difficult to come back. But it's not going to be 5-0. It wouldn't surprise me. You got Ben Stokes as captain. He writes his own script. You know, you look at the World Cup finals, the 2019. You look at the T20 World Cup final at the MCG. Pretty much took it to the wire because he can.
Yeah.
It'll probably be 2-2 going down the final stretch at the Oval. England will be requiring 360 to win. There'll be 9 wickets down. Stokes will be on 160. Jimmy Allison will stroll out there needing 10 or 15, and Cummins will be bowling bouncers to him. I think it's going to be very, very tight.
Very tight.
I really do. I think it'll be. I'm just favouring England at the minute because of the fact that the Aussies have not won there for such a long period of time, and this Aussie team is quite similar to the 2019 team. Yet this England team is massively different. It's a huge difference.
Yep.
In mindset, personnel, they're a miles better team England now than what they were in 2019, and for that reason, I think England are going to sneak it.
Okay, great call. One question, you mentioned Stokes a few times. Captaincy. You are obviously one of the most successful captains. What does it take with we're having split captaincies for different formats? What are the keys to being a good captain, and who would you say in today's cricket are the great international captains?
Well, I think there's many. I mean, I think the key to captaincy is having your, you obviously need respect when you get the role. You need clarity. You need to be, one of the first names on the team sheet. You need to be very established in terms of you're going to be playing, so you're a good player. I think the key to captaincy is you have to do it your way, and I don't know whether there's an absolute right way, and I don't know if there's an absolute wrong way, but I think the key to it is when you get the role of having a clear definition of the style of play that you want your team to play, and how does that look. And by playing and thinking, okay, so Ben Stokes, he wants his team to play expansively, be really aggressive, so he's going to pick aggressive players. So that the Ben Stokes way is to play aggressively, great, and he buys into that every single day. So he then looks at players who can play that way. So there's a clear clarity in the team. Yeah. That is the way that we're going to play.
Yeah.
I think captains get unstuck when they get a little bit confused. Are we going to be aggressive? Are we going to be attritional? What style of team are we going to be? So I think first and foremost you have to know the style of team you're trying to be, and you have to be very clear on your messaging. I think you have to be very consistent in your manner. I think the easiest way for a team to see you under pressure is if you change.
Right.
So I look at the best captains, MS Dhoni. In white ball cricket, he's the best of all time, in my view. And what does he do? He stays very, very clear. And he's very process-driven. So I could see and look at MS Dhoni, and every time I'm seeing the team under pressure, I can see him looking at his bowlers and think, as long as you deliver the process, so as long as you deliver the ball in the areas that we've spoken about, so if we're going wide line Yorkers, and we're going to try and get the ball to be hit to the offside, that's the area that we want to get hit, and if someone hits a ball and it goes over extra cover or over point for 6, no problem. No problem, because you've delivered the process, and you know what, the batter's just been good enough and better than us to deliver his process better than we have.
Right.
Now, if he sees his bowler try a leg stump Yorker when they've spoken about what they're going to do, I think he gets angry. He probably doesn't show it to us watching on the television, but I think that angers him because that's not the process. So I think he's very process driven and not result driven, and I think the best leaders in all sport are like that. They just deliver the process, deliver the tactics, deliver the skills, make sure the team's mindset is very clear, making sure it's very concentrated at the right time. We all know as human beings you make mistakes, not a problem. No problem at all with mistakes, as long as you're concentrating,
right.
And as long as your process is right. And the process comes from preparation, practice, and talking about what you're going to do. And also having this clear clarity around the whole group of this is what we are about as a team. And by a team, I mean every single individual within that team knows their role within that team. So that's process. And pretty much the results always look after themselves. When you get that right, and you get everyone buying into what their roles are, and you get everyone buying into this culture of just delivering this process. You don't talk about winning. Yes, of course, everyone knows that's the end goal, you want to win. But if you continuously talk about winning, you're actually forgetting what it takes to win.
Right.
So It's very important, I believe, in sport that, forget winning. Forget the actual result. Just deliver skill. Deliver the skill, and if you deliver it better than the opposition, you know what, you will win. But ultimately, you won't deliver the skill if you go away from the process of what it's about. And I see MS Dhoni as the best white ball captain. I actually think Pat Cummins looks a very good captain. I think he looks a very, very smart. Not many bowlers have made great captains. There's just not many bowlers.
It just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, they've never been given the captaincy.
Right.
It's like this stigma that the bowlers are a bit daft and a bit dumb. They're not. They're not. They're actually quite smart, some of them. So I would be tempted to give, particularly in, you look at the IPL. You've not got one bowler. All right, there's all-rounders. Hardik, Krunal Pandya, he's had to go at captaincy. Sam Curran, captaincy. Most of them are batters. Why not one of these IPL franchise owners go, let's try a bowler. Let's see what would happen. And I guess their fear is that the bowler might not play every game, and whereas a batter generally plays all the games. But Pat Cummins is showing that a bowler can be a very, very good captain. I always thought Kane Williamson looked a cool captain. But for me, Ben Stokes is exceptional. He's just got that. He's got that body language of, I'll do it. I'll do it. Yeah. And he's tough. He does the tough yards, but also tactically he's very astute and very clever in his mind to basically say to the opposition, we're not scared about losing. It's the hardest trait to play against when you're playing against an opposition that just, they come across as if they don't care about losing. I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But the kind of exterior persona that we see at the minute is of an England side that's not scared of it. Whether they will be if they go 1-0 down in the Ashes is a big kind of $1 million question, but to have that mindset, I always say to anyone in professional sport, when you were a kid, so when you were 10, when you're playing football, cricket, rugby, whatever it was, you generally just woke up and you were so excited about playing the game.
This is a real personal question for me because he was one of my favorite cricketers of all time. Shane Warne made me love watching the game of cricket, and I of course loved watching him play. I know that you were friends with him. If you could just share a couple of Warnie stories and your interactions with him.
Oh, I reckon if you get with your group of mates and try and pick the greatest ever team of all time across 3 formats, so they have to be able to play 3 formats. If you don't start at number 8, I would argue that you've got the wrong people in the room picking the sides.
Yeah.
He for me is the greatest because not only did he deliver the hardest skill, but he was a rock star. He made cricket cool. He at times was on the front pages for wrong reasons, but most of the time he was on the back pages for delivering incredible moments. He just had the persona to make opposition players feel small, and not in a nasty way. He would give you plenty, but he was always the first to shake your hand. So if you did well, he always was the first to come and say well done. But for the 4 or 5 hours that you're out there in the middle, he's absolutely lambasting you, calling you all the names under the sun. But he caught well at first slip. He scored valuable runs, aggressively attacking. But his skill levels with the ball, I do think. You look at what he did for Rajasthan in the first year. I do think he possibly could have been one of the greatest international captains. He would have had a prolonged run of, I know he stood in every now and again, but he could have been one of the great international captains. But a great guy. I was very lucky to work with him for the last few years in Australia. His last Christmas I actually spent with him, with his parents and his brother. A full Christmas meal for us. Shane had lasagna in bread rolls with tomato ketchup. And then I remember him looking over to Jackson, his son, who had a plate of turkey and the usual. He said, they actually no veg. And I went, King. I said, how can you complain about Jackson when you've got a lasagna sandwich on your plate on Christmas Day? He was a great guy, very, very loyal, brilliant with me, and very competitive. Whatever he was doing, he wanted to win. Golf, tennis, poker, whatever it was, he wanted to be the best at it. Whether it was going out and, it's well documented he liked a bit of a party and He liked the odd girl, you know, but he wanted to be the best at everything that he did, but in a really nice manner. You know, he was the life and soul of, I'm sure, I never played in a team with him in terms of playing the game, but I've been in a commentary team with him, and he's the life and soul. Absolute life and soul, hugely missed, but for me he's the greatest cricketer that's ever lived because of the skill, the rock star status he brought, the drama. He loved the lights on him, he loved the cameras on him, and he pretty much took down every opposing team, both in 50 over cricket, T20 cricket, and obviously Test match cricket. The greatest ever.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Michael.
No problem.
Last set of questions. Just rapid fire, shoot out whatever answer makes sense, or whatever you prefer. Sachin or Lara, who would you pick to bat for your life?
To survive, Sachin.
Okay. As opposed to survive was...
Well, Lara I would have as a more aggressive, flamboyant player, but for Sachin to, you know, survive
Keep you alive.
and keep me alive, and you've just got to stay in, Sachin Tendulkar.
Okay. Kohli, Steve Smith and Joe Root, same question.
Okay, this is interesting. Virat Kohli in white ball cricket, Steve Smith in Test cricket.
Okay. Bowler that gave you the most problems?
Most problem, I would say, I mean, McGrath when the ball was moving, Muralitharan in Sri Lanka, nightmare. Sean Pollock actually. Sean Pollock, I thought he was an incredible bowler. Real skillful, and never give you anything. You know, all these bowlers, McGrath, I see it from Jimmy Anderson now, Sean Pollock, hate going for runs. So I used to actually like bowlers who bowled a bit of pace so you could deflect them and get down the other end, but Sean Pollock, I found a nightmare, just couldn't get down the other end.
Okay, biggest trash talker or sledger you ever encountered in your playing career?
I mean, the Aussies just call you all the names under the sun, but they're all great mates now, so...
We just say Australia?
Yeah, I just say the Aussies, but
Okay.
I love them. You know, I like that style of cricket, so... Yeah, they called me a few names, but that's fine.
And who was the biggest trash talker in the England side when you played?
Trash talker? Oh, we didn't really give much out.
Michael?
We didn't give a great deal. I would say... I think Jimmy Anderson's got it up there, you know. I didn't play that much with Jimmy, but I'm led to believe he says a few things on the pitch, so I'm going to say Jimmy.
Okay. Future stars of cricket globally?
Shubman Gill will be... he'll be godlike status in India,
Yeah.
without any question. Cameron Green. Cameron Green for the Aussies, I hate to say it, he's going to win them a few Ashes. That's annoying. And I would say in the UK, I think Harry Brook, I know you've not seen the best of him in the IPL, but I think Harry Brook's going to be, and is already, what he's done in Test cricket, but I think he's going to be a player that you see across all the formats dominating at some stage, whether it's now, whether it's in a year, in 2 or 3 years. I do think he's going to have a spell of domination. So Harry Brook, Cameron Green and Shubman Gill.
Shubman Gill, okay. Favorite non-cricket athlete?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods, mine too.
Yeah.
It's number one for me.
Tigger.
And finally, favorite Indian dish?
Do you know what I like? I like an onion bhaji.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like a nice onion bhaji, but I love Indian food.
Okay.
You know, chicken tikka. I love a roti, garlic naan. I don't like the rice. I don't do rice. So I like to sweep it up with a naan bread and a roti.
Fair enough.
So king prawn boona. You know, anything that arrives on my plate, I'll ever go out.
Fair enough. Well, I thank you very much for your time, Michael. Appreciate it. And do know this for sure, I will be taking my revenge on the paddle courts when you return later this year.
Okay, have some lessons. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.